President Trump getting personally involved in the push to overturn Michigan's election results. NBC News reports the president is inviting Michigan state lawmakers to the White House tomorrow. And the president also called 2 Republican election officials in Wayne County. They now appear to be at least attempting to rescind their decision to certify the results there, something for which legal analysts say there is no. Michigan's largest, home to Detroit. It's deep blue and voted overwhelmingly for the president-elect. In a news conference, extraordinary by even 2020 standards in its volume of distractions, deceptions, and conspiracy theories, his legal team insisted that the president still has a viable path to victory. Rudy Giuliani, with darkened sweat streaming from his head, screamed of a fantastical and broad conspiracy to steal the election. He evoked George Soros, Hugo Chavez, and the Clinton Foundation, and alleged widespread voter fraud for which he provided no evidence. Another of the president's attorneys talked of the influence of communist money through Venezuela, Cuba, and likely China, as he put it. The Washington Post fact-checker analysis calls it the craziest news conference of the Trump presidency. The Trump campaign and its GOP allies have now filed at least 30 lawsuits in 6 different swing states. None of them has shown any evidence of voter fraud.
I want to welcome this morning high-profile attorney David Boies, chairman of the law firm Boies, Schiller, and Flexner. He recently co-authored, along with Ted Olson, a Washington Post op-ed. It was titled, "We Opposed Each Other in Bush v. Gore. Now We Agree. Biden Won." We want to thank you for joining us, David, this morning. And just speak to the concerns you have about where we are in this transition process and what you think needs to happen.
I think there are 2 concerns, neither of which are really legal concerns. From a legal standpoint, this election is over. There isn't anything that's going to be done to turn it around. The 2 concerns are, as this controversy, or supposed controversy, plays out, it is interfering with the Biden administration's ability to get ready to go through the transition process and really be prepared to govern. And that's a disadvantage to everybody in this country, Republican, Democrat alike. It doesn't make any difference who you voted for in the election. You want the new administration to be ready on day one to protect American interests, both at home and abroad. And the ongoing dispute, in quotes, is interfering with that. Second, I think it's dividing the country. When you make baseless claims about widespread voter fraud and the like, you stir up this sense of people who really don't know the facts, haven't had the time to investigate it themselves, that somehow something went wrong in this election. As both Republican and Democratic secretaries of state around the country have said, this was the most secure election in history. This was the election that had the greatest scrutiny, the most protections of any presidential election in history. And to try to undermine people's faith in democracy, I think, is unfortunate. But this is swirling around in a political
David,
context, not a legal context.
Let me ask you, though. Let me ask you as a lawyer, in terms of your duty as a lawyer, you have represented people that I imagine you have disagreed with their position.
Right.
You have represented people that I imagine may have very well been guilty, and you would have argued that they deserve to participate in the legal process. And there are supporters of President Trump to this day who believe that at minimum he should be allowed to go through the legal process. What do you say to
Absolutely.
them?
Well, I mean, I agree with that 100%. I totally disagree with the idea that you go out and try to punish, try to demonize lawyers for representing a client in court. We want these disputes in court. If they bring them to court, they're going to get dismissed. They're getting dismissed all the time. We don't want it in the streets. We don't want this decided in social media. We want them decided in court, and I think it's a terrible mistake for people to demonize lawyers for taking on a client that they don't like. However, lawyers do have a responsibility to make sure that the claims they make in court are responsible ones, and the courts will decide and will sanction lawyers who don't bring responsible arguments. But that ought to be decided, as I say, in court, not in social media, not in the political realm. The thing that I think is unfortunate is the president continuing to use the enormous pulpit of the White House and as president of the United States to attack the election system. If he has issues, bring them to court, let the court decide them. It is the making of these political assertions that I think just are without basis that I think is unfortunate.